All right. Well, welcome to the special webinar that we're doing today for the Author Marketing Institute. My name is Jim Kukrow from the Author Marketing Institute, and we have a real special guest on the line today who's going to talk about a topic that you need to know about in order to sell more books. Before we do that, this is a preview in what we're doing for the Author Marketing Live virtual event, which is happening starting on January 26th, 2015. So if you're watching this before that date, then you definitely want to head on over to authormarketinglive.com and get your seat, because we're going to have 15 presentations that are going to be similar in content to this over that week period. And the best part about a virtual event is that there's no travel, there's no phone, no planes, no hotels. You just log in, watch the presentation either live when you can. We're recording them all during the day. But if you have a day job or if you're writing and you don't feel like watching them at that time, you can just come back and watch them anytime you want. Come back and watch one of them every night for 15 days. You could watch them 2 months later. It doesn't matter. A virtual event is powerful because you don't have to leave your home. You could watch it on your phone. You could watch them on your tablets, but you're going to have access to watch all of the videos whenever you want to watch them. And we're going to have some amazing, amazing videos and speakers coming in. Steve Scott is going to be speaking, a guy who sells over $60,000 a month with Kindle books, which is pretty amazing. He's going to be showing you how he does that. Brian Cohen is going to be coming in and talking about how to set up a multi-author Facebook event. We've got Mark Coker, the CEO of Smashwords, going to be on the call. Some bigger names in the nonfiction world. We've got Lewis Howes. I just met with Tony Robbins, Peter Shankman, Joel Comm. We've got fiction, nonfiction. It's all going to be covered across all of the things you're going to need to know about for how to sell more books. But we're excited to have you there. So this is a little preview that we're going to do today, and this is one of the people that we just didn't have enough room to get on the agenda for this event, but I said we got to have this information because I know it's going to be valuable. So I'd like to welcome Tara Alemany onto the line. Tara, how are you?
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
I'm glad to have you here. As I mentioned, Tara reached out to me, and we didn't have room to get her on this agenda for Author Marketing Live, but I really thought that the information that she wanted to present made a lot of sense, and I wanted to do this and get it out to you guys anyway, because I think it's going to make a lot of sense for you guys. So let me just quickly read a little bit about Tara here. Tara is an award-winning author, a speaker, and consultant. She has offers the thing called The Plan That Launched 1,000 Books, and I believe that's what we're talking about today, right, Tara?
We're going to take a segment out of the plan because
Okay.
The plan itself, the full talk, is just too long for right now, but
Right.
we're going to take a piece and highlight it.
Great. So this is a do-it-yourself guide to marketing and promoting your books. And Tara, after working with years of working with authors and speakers to develop marketing strategies and build their platforms, Tara shares her favorite tools, tips, and techniques in this in-depth DIY guide. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Tara, welcome to the webinar. I'm glad to have you here, and I'm very excited to learn more about what you have to present today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you just to take over the screen and go through your presentation. If I have any questions at any point, I may interject. And if you guys have any questions for us, just feel free to send them to us at info@Author Marketing Institute after you watch this, and we'll be happy to get those to Tara, because we're doing a recording of this, not live. And Tara, take it away.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me, Jim. I really appreciate being able to present to your audience. I'm going to take a segment out of the plan, and I referred to it as failing faster to succeed as an author. You know, one of the things that we run into is when we're trying to market our books, we can get so caught up in the writing process without ever having any idea how successful it's going to be to market it once we get there. And if we can fail faster, then we can get to a point where we can have more successful books out there. So just as you've already mentioned, I am the author of The Plan That Launched 1,000 Books. I'm a speaker. I own a publishing company called Emerald Lake Books and a marketing company called Aleweb Social Marketing. And through the course of both of those, I help authors get found online, on stage, and on the shelf. So it's my knowledge of what I apply to my own books as well as to my clients' books that came into being put together to make the plan that launched 1,000 books. When we start talking about book marketing, there's so many different facets to it. There's sales, there's your website, there's publicity, there's reviews, there's email, there's all this stuff. And it can be a little bit overwhelming. And it can also be a little bit directionless. So one of the things that I always recommend an author do is, as early as possible in the process, put together a book marketing plan. And that's what the plan that launched 1,000 books helps them do. It's a do-it-yourself guide to kind of, what are we going to do? What is the purpose of the book? You know, why has it been written? Who is it for? What is it supposed to accomplish? How are we going to do that? And how much do I have to spend in order to do that? And the combination of this book marketing plan and then this how strategies piece is where all of the other aspects from here come into play. How are we going to implement these different parts in order to create a plan that's effective for us based on our budget, based on our skills, based on the resources we have access to? But there's a piece that can be done even before then. And before you ever get into planning how you're going to get the book that you want to write into the hands of your audience, there's market research that really should be done. And most people skip this step, and yet it's something that's very important because you want to understand whether or not there's even a demand for the title that you want to write. Now, a lot of what I'm going to show today is more suitable for nonfiction authors than for fiction authors, but it can be used in both cases. For the fiction authors, you can be looking to see which genres are going to be more suitable or of interest, what kind of settings, what kind of characters, things like that. However, this is going to really work well for people who have nonfiction books as well with some of the tools that I've focused on today. So we want to start out with, knowing your market. When you're doing your market research, there's certain questions you're trying to answer. What are they buying right now? What problems are they trying to solve? What information are they looking for? And are they finding it? And most importantly, if you're going to be writing something, do you have something to add that's of value to them, to your reader? Once you know your market, you also want to know your competition. What are they writing? What other titles are out there that are similar to what you're looking to write? How well is it selling? What did they miss? And there are tools that are going to be able to help us figure that out. So the next thing that you want to do as part of your marketing is also project your sales. And that can be really hard to predict. You want to think about the supply and demand. You want to do your best to be able to pull that information together. But in the past, even with the research you did, it really came down to a guessing game. One of the best places to go, doing your market research actually is a little bit counterintuitive too, because people think about the fact that research takes time. Well, research does take time, but done right, it saves you time as well. It allows you to plan a course of action that's going to accomplish your goals more quickly. It's also going to help you discover what's selling now. You need to be aware of the fact that past performance doesn't always guarantee future results, just as in investing. However, having an understanding of what is successful right now will help. It also gives you the opportunity to kind of test out your ideas, see what is currently of interest to your reading audience as well as to your existing followers. So one of the places that people usually go when they're looking at researching titles is Amazon. But there's a few problems there. One is that things aren't always what they seem. So, for instance, you could have a book and be looking at the top 100 free titles. Actually, you could be looking at the top 100 paid titles. But if something had just come off the top 100 free titles and is now being paid for, it will show up in the top 100 paid. So even though there's no real sales behind it, it can look as though it's a best-selling book that is generating the kind of revenue. And of course, if we're going to be writing and we're looking to market our books, most likely we're looking to market it for sales. So you want to look at what titles are actually going to be generating money for you. The other issue is that everything moves so quickly on Amazon. When you do look at things like the sales ranks, those are being updated hourly. So the chances of you being able to target a title and write something similar to a title that's doing really well right now, by the time you have it written and ready to go, it may be out of date. The other thing on top of that is that research can become really time consuming. I had a scenario once where an author client of mine had a book that was already written and was now trying to research the most effective titles for the book. And in doing that, we ended up spending about 10 hours of time on Amazon researching existing titles in the similar categories that had similar content, brainstorming new titles, coming up with the top 10 best titles that we could come up with, polling prospective readers, trying to select a title. And by the time we did that, it was all just to select a title for an existing book. And we had no guarantee of what the overall outcome was going to be for us in terms of increase in sales. So one of the things that I recommend people use is a Google Chrome extension that's called Kindle Spy. And if you're interested in learning more about it, especially seeing a video demo of it that I have, it's on my website at Kindle Spy Demo. So alewebsocial.com, Kindle Spy Demo. You can also just get a copy of it here because I'm going to go through a little bit of it right now. Because the information I'm going to get from Kindle Spy, I'm going to show you how to use that to maximize the effectiveness of what you're trying to put together for your book. So I'm going to go actually to Google Chrome right now. And Kindle Spy is this Google Chrome extension add-on here. So if I click on Kindle Spy, it's going to open up Amazon, but it opens it up in a special way that allows it to gather data from there. And when I do that, it's going to open it up so that I am searching on Amazon.com, which is the US listings, and then the Kindle store. And say I want to see about on a topic on book marketing, maybe. I'm going to do a search on that book marketing. And go. And it's going to show me the top books that meet that keyword right now. Now I can use this same application to drill down in categories instead if I want, but I'm using it to look specifically at a topic right now that I might be interested in writing about. So book marketing, it shows me the top search results. Now if I go and click on Google's Kindle Spy, it is going to go through the top 20 search results on this page, and it shows me some really interesting information. It shows me the average sales rank, and it takes a few minutes to pull in all the data, but it's going to show me the average sales rank of the books that are currently being shown here, as well as the estimated average sales revenue and average price of those books. It also gives me an indicator of the average number of reviews. Now, when I want to see if a title or a topic is strong, I want to look at books that have a sales rank of, say, 30,000 or more. And so in this particular instance, looking at book marketing from this standpoint, my initial guess would be that although it's generating a good amount of revenue, the overall sales rank is a little bit low. So for instance, what I want to be looking for is a keyword or topic that has a sales rank of 30,000 or more, 30,000 or less, sorry. So I have a couple in this category, but I might want to consider refining that keyword in order to come up with more titles that have a greater sales rank. Now the nice thing is I can take this information, I can export it to Excel and manipulate the information so that I can sort on sales rank, I can sort on the different pieces of information. But here it's giving me a great list at this point of starting points. So I am going to export this so that you can see what it looks like when it's exported. When it's opened in Excel, it's simply an unformatted CSV file. So if you have a Mac, you can open it in Pages as well if that's what you choose to do.
Tara, I have a question.
Sure.
The estimated sales number, is that per month or what is that?
That is for the last 30 days.
Okay.
So that's one of the differences where you're looking at the sales ranks. That's based on the last hour. This looks at the estimated sales over the course of the last 30 days.
How does it determine the estimated sales rank in the last 30 days if it does? Because it records all of the sales rank every hour?
It does record the sales rank over the last 30 days, and there is a way that you can actually mark certain titles to be able to see the trend in sales rank over the last 30 days.
Oh, wow, okay. I
Okay.
didn't realize it did that.
Yeah, so it's a really cool application, very powerful. It's inexpensive. It is a Chrome extension. It is a premium one, but it's $37 for it, so it's well worth saving the time that it takes to research the titles. The nice thing too is later on I can send this information along to other people if I want to show them certain titles, or say later on I touch on the fact that you want to have your graphic designer look at some of the top selling covers in order to create a cover that works really well for you. Well, the links to all of these top 20 books are right here, so it would be very easy for you to provide that information without having to have the extension themselves. But here, if I just go and put a simple filter on any one of these columns, I can then resort. So I want to look smallest to largest, and I can see this one probably it hasn't had any sales in the last 30 days, so there's nothing to rank it on. But if you take a look, I want something that has a strong showing at 30,000 or less, and actually there are 11 different titles that do. So that could be a good category to write on. Going back to Kindle Spy itself, there's a lot of other things that you can use this for. So the other part of Kindle Spy isn't just the sales rank, and I do want to point out the fact that you can pull the sales data for the US or for the UK or for Germany. It's not just US data only. You do have to choose which one you're interested in. But the other thing that Kindle Spy does for you is this word cloud. This word cloud looks at the words used in the titles of all of these top 20 books and suggests possibilities that you may want to include in your title. So if you're looking for what might I write on, you might want to look at using Facebook for your book marketing, because those seem to be the top titles that people are buying right now and what they're interested in. So it's really, it's very powerful in helping you niche down on what it is that you want to be writing about. And therefore, you can test out your ideas based on purchases currently being made before you even start writing. Now, the nice thing, too, is once you've identified what you want to be writing about, you can start using Amazon simply to go in and reverse engineer your book. You can look at titles that are similar to the one that you think you're going to write. And if we decided that we wanted to write something on, using Facebook to market your book, you might want to narrow down in on some of the books related to Facebook. And when you do that, you can then use the look inside feature in order to look at what content is there and figure out how relevant it is for what you want to be writing about. It looks like, yes, look inside. So when you look at the table of contents, hopefully this has one, yes. When you look at the table of contents, it just helps you jog your memory about the things that you may want to include in this book that you're considering writing. Now, one of the things that I do like to do as I start writing is I start an outline. And personally, because I like doing it visually, I use a mind map. So I write down what my keyword or what my topic is, and then I start pulling together what the various chapters are going to be and what the points in those chapters are going to be, so that by the time I'm done with my research, I already have an outline for my book, and I can go ahead and just start filling in the things that are most interesting and relevant to me. So going back to looking at reverse engineering your book, the other part you can do is go look at reviewer comments and read through them. And read through not just the positive ones, but actually look at the negative ones too, because the negative ones will often indicate what people felt was missing in the content and what they had hoped to find that didn't. And that in itself indicates that you have an area where there is a lack. And if you're able to fill that lack with valuable information and great content, then you are positioning yourself well for being able to find the target market that you want. So once you have done that, the other thing that you can do is you can always check on the sales of a given author. So say I'm looking at book marketing, I'm going to go back to book marketing, and I want to check out and see how has an author that has written the kind of books I'm interested in writing done with this particular category. So I think Derek Murphy, has more than one book on book marketing. So if I click on his author page, Kindle Spy will also let me see for that person the same kind of sales data. Now it's not going to show me 1 through 20 unless that author has written 1 through 20, but I can look at all of the content that he does have there. So I can see that over the course of the past 30 days, his total sales revenue across the 2 titles he has is around $402. And that he has a significant number of reviews, which of course is part of what helps Amazon's search algorithm decide what to show first, is reviews as well as keywords in the title, description, and subtitle. So that gives you a target number of what you want to try and accomplish in terms of building your book listing to be able to rank better in Amazon's search engine. So once you've done these kind of things and reverse engineered the bestsellers, looked at those review comments, updated your outline, now it's time to start writing. When you're doing your research, there are a couple of other things though that I would recommend that you make note of. For instance, when you're looking through these titles, look at things like the fonts and formats that you like and dislike, because down the line you're going to have to make decisions about those. Look at the categories that those bestsellers are in and how they're positioned in them. And is that a category that's suitable then for your topic? I also make a point of making note of the print sizes and formats, simply because when I create a book, when I publish it, and especially if it's something that I'm going to print, I want to make sure that it's going to stand out on a bookshelf. So I want to make sure that I'm not doing the same print size as everybody else. So if everybody else is doing a 5.5 by 8.5 book, maybe I want to do 5.25 by 8.25, so that it is a little bit distinct on the shelf and will draw the eye a little more. I also do things like making note of reviewers' names and endorsers' names just in case they're people that might be suitable for me to reach out to as well. But once you get into the writing, and you've done your writing, and you've got a great book to put out there, then the next step is start thinking about your cover. And oftentimes I will have my cover designer start on this while I'm doing the writing. So give them that list that came out of Kindle Spy, that's the Excel list. Highlight those titles that are the ones that you're using as your model or something that you want to be able to compete with or be a companion to. And give the designer that list so that they can start looking at designs, colors, fonts. What do you like? What do you don't like? So they can be giving some thought to putting together a cover design that really works for you. You want to distinguish yourself without clashing. And so that's why things like a slightly different book format size makes a big difference. Having a spine that stands out. Oftentimes people will just put the title along the spine and not really worry too much about how to make it appear. And yet there's a lot that can be done to catch the eye when you only have that small amount of real estate on the shelf. So you want to make it stand out. Your size does matter. You want a design that's uniquely yours, and you want to know your reader's needs. A friend of mine tells a story about how he had written a book that was for job seekers that talked about how to use LinkedIn. And when it was originally printed, it was printed so that it was a bound book, and the sales weren't very good. And he wanted to try something out. He wanted to test out a theory. And you have something that's a book about LinkedIn, most likely you're at the computer trying to use the book at the same time. And this seems counterintuitive, but he took one copy of the book to Staples, had them cut off the binding, and replace it with a spiral binding. That one change made a significant difference in the marketability of his book, because now people who were sitting at a computer could open the book, have it lay flat, have it stay open, and be able to use LinkedIn at the same time as they were working through the exercises. So, understanding what those readers' needs become a huge piece of it. And you may gain hints and pieces of information that will help you figure that out when you're looking at the readers' review comments in your competitors' books. So, like I said, make sure that spine, that binding, the book presentation works as well. Using the information that you've gathered from your market research, you want to make sure that you're optimizing your sales content. Know your keywords, create that engaging cover copy that really has somebody want to pull that book off the shelf. That's what the spine and the cover does, but now they're reading the back. That's got to be the part that invites them to open the book. And when you know that you're answering the questions and pain points that you've discovered through the research you've done, that allows you to create that content that says, "Yep, this is exactly what I need to do." On the plan that launches the plan that launched 1,000 books, one of the things I talk about is, moving beyond book sales at Lemonade Lucy stands, which is a term that a friend of mine uses. That's basically going someplace and selling one copy at a time, and like Lemonade Lucy in the Peanuts comic strip, hoping that you can sell everything you've got, sell your inventory. The plan takes you beyond that so that you can find other ways of being able to sell content, sell copies in bulk, and just all sorts of different things like that. So hitting that pain point in my cover copy gets people interested in picking it up and seeing what's inside. You want to make sure as well that whether you're using Amazon for your listing or Barnes & Noble or a combination of a variety of different online retailers, that your listing copy also addresses that pain point and highlights the questions that are answered in your content that weren't answered elsewhere from what you've done in research. You want to think about making sure that your keywords are in your title, subtitle, and description, because all of those count towards the visibility within whatever online retailer you're on. And then the last piece really is knowing that you're pricing competitively. Know what the market's going to bear. Kindle Spy will help you figure out some of that by going and looking at the copies that are currently selling and what they're selling at. But you'll see, for instance, the ones that are selling the most here, these are in the top ones with the top sales rank, but they're free downloads. So here I actually will take this Excel file and I will filter out everything that is, I select all and filter out everything that's zero. And now I'm looking at RA $2.99. That's got to be an error. $5.99. Sometimes these prices are for out-of-print hard copy covers, and sometimes I found that to be pulled wrong, and I'm not too certain why. Actually, I am certain why. It comes because this has a copy for rent as well as to buy, and when it's renting, this number is a bug. I've reported it to the developers, and they are going to be fixing that. But when the Kindle copy can be rented as well as purchased, you'll end up with a false reading there. But the ranking is still correct. So, looking at the ones that are selling, though, and the price points that they're at will help you figure out what price point will work for you. The other thing is that KDP Select has recently introduced in beta a price comparison chart. So when you do your KDP listing and you set your keywords for your title, at step 9 of the KDP publishing process, where you're putting the pricing and royalty options, just below that heading is a button that says View, and that will allow you to go and compare other titles that are using your keywords to see what the optimum pricing is for it. And that is something that I actually do go back and check periodically, say once a quarter, because sometimes new books come out that are selling really, really well, and so the recommendation that it had for me 3 months ago may actually be higher now. And what it looks there is it looks both at your price point, the volume of sales, so that you may see an increase in the volume of sales if you decrease the price. And that is always one of those conundrums that people have in trying to set the price on their book, is they resist a lower price because they feel that their content's worth more than that, without often realizing that the lower price will earn them more money over time because they'll sell more copies. So make sure that you spend some time figuring out what's going to work best for you from a sales perspective. once you've got your book out there and everything, this is the time where you're going to be building your brand and establishing your expertise and using all of these pain points that you've been able to identify and answer to establish your author base and build your platform. What I often recommend during the writing process is figure out ways that you can include what I call in-book treasures or Easter eggs to build your mailing list. So one of the things that you might see if you were to purchase a copy of The Plan That Launched 1,000 Books is very early in the book is an offer to download for free a book marketing template for your plan. And what that means is I don't need to sell a copy of the book on my site in order to gather somebody's email address. Every copy that's sold on Amazon, if somebody decides that they also want to get the companion template, has to go and sign up in order to receive the template. It's set on an autoresponder, so there's nothing that I need to do other than allow my list to grow. And so it happens on autopilot. But there are other things that you can do for those in-book treasures. So for instance, with Kindle books at this point in time, you can embed video content. You can, in either print or Kindle, you can include announcements or advertisements about upcoming books or related books. Or if you are writing in a specific niche, maybe you want to make a series out of your books. And if they're a series, include the first chapter of the next book in the series at the end of the book. So there's all sorts of ways that you can use this to grow your brand that increases your ability to market to a larger audience. And then rinse and repeat. Stay within your topic area. Poll your readers for ideas. What is it that they're trying to accomplish? Where have they struggled? And then start doing the research to figure out how can you write something, or what can you write that will allow you to address those pain points so that you become the go-to person. So with that research, it allows you to then set up the next title in your sequence. So if anybody has any interest in learning more about The Plan That Launched 1,000 Books, you're welcome to scan the QR code that's here, or go to alewebsocial.com/theplan in order to get a free excerpt, or you can purchase it on Amazon or my website. I have it in both print and ebook formats. And for the attendees of Author Marketing Live and the viewers of this particular webinar, I do want to make a special offer today. The first 15 people who respond to this offer, I would be happy to give 15% off the purchase price of a publishing package with Emerald Lake Books. Depending on your publishing package, that could be purely for ebook, for print, and can include marketing strategies as well. So whatever it is that you choose to go for, that would be just mention the fact that you learned about it through Author Marketing Live.
All right, Sarah, are you done?
I am.
All right, great. I was waiting for a wrap up there. Thanks so much for doing that. I do, I have not used the Kindle Spy tool before, but I find it fascinating that the data it brings. I didn't realize that it brought in sales data that was accrued over time. For example, we have a tool called the Bookalizer, which what it does is it reaches out to Amazon and grabs your sales rank at the current moment and determines how much money that book or a competitor's book earns at the time of that sales rank.
Mm-hmm.
But Kindle Spy is tracking it for over a 30-day span. So you're getting, essentially a really accurate look, hopefully, of what you or a competitor is actually selling of that title. Is that correct?
That is true, yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So you recommend that people go through and do the research. I'm torn on this topic. Obviously, I think it's smart for people to do the research and see what books are selling and what aren't selling. And look at the keywords and stuff like that. On the other hand, it's like, do you think that doing this helps some people just go out and write books that maybe they shouldn't be writing because they've found a competitive niche? What do you think?
I think that it can happen that way. I know there's plenty of people out there who are simply writing 30, 40, 50-page ebooks in order to get a ton of them out there. And that's not what I recommend. For me, I see using this strategy as a way of being able to build your brand. the authors that I work with are always authors who see their book as part of their business model. So their intent is really to end up with more educated prospects, to create more speaking opportunities, to generate more consulting opportunities. And so you want to make sure that the quality of what you're writing and the quality of what you're trying to sell is in line with the reputation you want your brand to have. Oftentimes people will use something like Kindle Spy to do this market research so that they can put out a whole series of books, often under a pen name. And their only interest really there is the royalties, Kindle royalties. They're not looking to build a business practice per se. I really strongly recommend using this in a way that is allowing you to build the kind of brand that you want to have.
Yeah, it makes for nonfiction. You're correct. I mean, I'm just thinking from the fiction side. Somebody sees a romance genre that is really selling well, and they go out and they just write a series of romance books with these specific keywords to try and compete. And I'm not so worried about it because that Kindle Gold Rush type of feeling, I believe it's fading right now simply from the fact that there's so many books out there that exist right now. And I've said this from the beginning, if the books aren't good, they're not going to get read, they're not going to get shared, they're not going to get reviewed. So
Mm-hmm.
just because some fool creates a 40-part series with specific Kindle keywords and good covers, if the books aren't good, they're not going to be at the top of the sales rank, right?
And that's one of the reasons why the reviews are so important.
Right.
Because a lot of the strategy that I work with authors on after they've got a book out there is how do they go about getting quality reviews. You'll see that the books that are time and time again at the top of that sales rank, and that's one of the reasons I like Kindle Spy, shows the number of reviews, because that gives me a better feeling for how valuable people see that content. If I'm looking at a book that may have a great sales rank right now, but only has 2 reviews, I'm less likely to take the risk of purchasing it. I'm more likely to take the risk of purchasing a book that's doing really well right now that has 93 reviews.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we are a review, social proof powered internet economy.
Mm-hmm.
Just went to go buy a dryer the other day, and it's funny. My wife and I were like, "Do we even really need to go into a store anymore?" And
Mm-hmm.
we went on several different websites, and we found a dryer, and we're like, what's the purpose of us even going into the store? To talk to a salesperson? We looked at the reviews. We found one that we thought had decent reviews, whether or not they're fake or real. You make that psychological judgment in your head, on the curve of good versus bad reviews, and we just ordered it.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk a lot about this on podcasts that I do, and over the last 19 years of selling stuff online. It's a very psychological experience buying anything, whether it's a book or a dryer. And the social proof aspect of it is extremely important. And you're right about the reviews. So before we let you go, talk just a real quick about what type of service specifically you can help an author with. If Is this the kind of stuff like doing the Kindle Spy research for them and helping them? Is that kind of stuff you do for them, or exactly?
That is certainly part of what I can do with my 2 different companies. I have Emerald Lake Books is really taking somebody who has a manuscript ready, who wants to publish it, and it's a hybrid publisher, so it's still going through what would typically be a self-publishing process. But it means that person who is doing the self-publishing doesn't have to know how to do it themselves. And it gives them the legitimacy or perceived legitimacy of having a publisher's name with the book. So that's what Emerald Lake Books does: is editing, book formatting, cover design, publishing, distribution, that kind of stuff, printing if you need that as well. Aleweb Social.
I want to be clear. Does the author keep the rights of the book?
The author keeps the rights. There is a royalty share, but the author keeps the rights.
Okay.
Okay. So for Aleweb Social Marketing, which is my older business, that one actually works with authors and speakers in order to figure out how to position their book in order to grow their business. So it does things like website design and social media and helps with content strategy, but there's a lot of book marketing pieces as well, publicity, press release, things along those lines.
Before I let you go, what's the number one book marketing tip you could give to a either a fiction or a nonfiction author that you think that they need to focus on for 2015?
You
Tough
know,
question.
you and I have already kind of mentioned it. It's the reviews. I think there is, and that's actually the book that I'm going to be writing next is about how to get more reviews, because they need to be legitimate reviews, and they need to be the social proof kind of reviews. A lot of people will look at, do I spend $495 on a single Kirkus review, or do I go out there and try and find average Joe, everyday readers who are willing to leave a review comment? And for me, a lot of it comes down to that social proof. Uh, you want to have the social proof, and especially if you can have the social proof from everyday people, but then also from influencers. If you can get somebody like Joel Cohn to take the time to review your book and say, yes, this is a quality piece of work, that does a lot for you.
Yeah, and that's very tough to do. We'll take Joel Com for example. I've known Joel for 15 years. If since I have a relationship with Joel, it
Mm-hmm,
makes it easier for me to ask him. However, people like that are extremely busy. I
mm-hmm,
personally, and I'm a Z lister, right?
mm-hmm,
I'm not anywhere near Joel's level or beyond that. But I personally get probably 5 to 10 requests a month for me to read their books and give them a blurb.
mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine what Joel gets, or people like Mark Cuban get, or people like that. I will give people a tip for that. I do have a quote from Mark Cuban on the back of my first traditionally published book, Attention, um, and I had a previous relationship with Mark because I had introduced him at a Blog World conference years before. So if I send him an email once a year, he would respond, right, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wanted the review of my book, I sent him the email. I said, "Look, I know you don't have time to read this book. It's a good book, I promise you." I go, "If I give you the highlights here, which is like 10 highlights, and would and I wrote the review for you, would you allow me to put your name on it?" And he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially, he didn't have time to read a 75,000 word book from me, right? But
Yep,
he did
yep,
have time to get the highlights. So I guess my point is, if you're trying to get influencers, you have to be very conscious of their time.
yep,
They're
yep.
not going to sit and read your book. You have to help them out.
Right. And another strategy that actually a friend of mine who was the first male Canadian contributor to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, his name is Barry Spilchuk, and he said one of the things to do when you're trying to have an influencer isn't to ask them to read the entire book. It's give them that synopsis that you've talked about, and then choose just one chapter that's representative of your book and that's relevant to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another
Uh,
great tip.
yeah, yeah. So it works out really well. I mean, Jeffrey Hazlitt, who is a friend of mine, he has Jeffrey Hazlitt with C-Suite with Jeffrey Hazlitt on Bloomberg TV. He's the former CMO of Kodak, and he's a global business celebrity. He wrote an endorsement for The Plan That Launched 1,000 Books. He has 2 New York Times bestselling books behind him. And so having the clout of somebody like that on your book is great. Ivan Meisner endorsed another one of my books, and one of the tips there was simply to look at the reviews that I already had, and we had already talked personally about what the story was about. So he wanted to endorse it. He actually offered to. Um, but when I asked him for the endorsement, I said, "This is the one thing that nobody has commented on in their reviews yet that I would love to have you highlight." And for that particular book, it was about hope. And because he knew the story, and I'd given him a starting point, he was able to very quickly and easily come back with the review for me.
Yeah, the whole review thing is it's easier now. I mean, Author Marketing Club, we have a tool that helps people find the reviewers, which I believe is the best way to get reviews, which is to find people who have reviewed similar books to yours already. If
Mm-hmm,
you've written a book about Bigfoot and you want to find people who have read books about Bigfoot who have already
mm-hmm.
reviewed them, that's my opinion, and I believe we've statistically, scientifically proved that that's a better way of getting reviews. But don't be discouraged. I think anyone who's watching this, it's tough to get reviews. I don't know what you think the number is, but I bet you it's probably less than 2% of the people who will read your book will actually review the book. What do you think the number is?
Uh, I think when it comes to sales, yes. I think very few people, when they buy a book, they go back to review it. I think that in instances where you're targeting a market who has accepted a book in exchange or on the condition of a review, I think it's slightly higher. There's one particular tool that I've used uh, that I get around an 8 to 10% review rate from.
That's great.
So yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to present this information. It was very valuable, Tara. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim.
Yeah, it's great. So everyone go on and visit her website and also head on over and grab a copy of her book, The Plan That Launched 1,000 Books. Again, we are going to have a bunch of presentations similar to this in content from all different types of genres and expertise and people from all over the world who are going to be speaking at authormarketinglive.com coming up on January 26th. Again, it's going to work just like this. You'll come in, you'll see a nice smiling, friendly face. It'll be me and the speaker. It's not going to be this big, fancy, downloadable thing. You just load up a window, watch it. If you can't watch it live, you'll watch the recording. We'll provide those for you the day right as soon as we finish recording them. And it's simple, right? Why do we have to make this so complicated? You don't have to get on a plane and travel someplace and deal with the hotels and all of this stuff. Just sit down, grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee, relax,
Mm-hmm.
shut off your cell phone, and listen and learn, right?
And be inspired.
Be inspired. And I'm still going to do in-person event. We're going to do another one in Cleveland in September. But I love in-person events because you actually meet people and the inspiration you get and the connections you make. But the virtual events are great as well because it's just the ability to be able to sit in your local coffee shop and learn and get inspired about how you can sell more books or write a better book is just an amazing feeling. And to be able to access that content over and over and over again when you want to watch it, when
Mm-hmm.
you want to consume it, because as authors, we're extremely busy people, whether we still have full-time jobs or we're just busy writing that big series of books. You want to do it when you can do it, and that's what Author Marketing Live is going to be. So grab your seats at authormarketinglive.com, and you'll see more people like Tara who will come in and present very, very helpful information. I learned a lot today about the Kindle Spy, and I never pulled the trigger on getting that plugin, but I think it's time to get one now and check it out. So thank you very much again, Tara, and thank you to all you guys who are watching. We'll see you at authormarketinglive.com starting January 26th. If you are watching this before that date, 2015, get your ticket now. If you are watching this after, you can probably go and get access to watch the videos on replay of some sort. We'll probably have them for sale after. So thank you very much. Have a great day, a great year, everybody, and we wish you much success with your book selling. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim.